Testing, testing, testing. Okay, we're good to continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. So you guys ready to?
I would be happy
interpretation?
to address the interpretation and public comment for the meeting.
Thank you.
If the chair would like. Thank you again. Before we begin tonight, we would like to announce that tonight's meeting will include Spanish language and simultaneous and consecutive interpretation provided by qualified Spanish interpreters on the Spanish channel. If watching on Zoom, you can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar. It looks like a globe. If you are attending in person and don't have access to the Zoom meeting from your mobile device, you can come see me or Miss Komodo, and we will get you set up with a device so you can listen to the meeting in Spanish. As a reminder, we ask that everyone participating tonight speak slowly to allow our interpreter to effectively express your comments. I'll invite the interpreter now to say what I said in Spanish on this channel.
Antes de comenzar, les anunciamos que la reunión de esta noche contará con interpretación simultánea y consecutiva en español a cargo de intérpretes calificados en el canal en español. Si la siguen por Zoom, pueden unirse al canal en español haciendo clic en el icono de interpretación en la barra de herramientas de Zoom que parece un globo. Y si asisten en persona y no tienen acceso a la reunión de Zoom, desde su dispositivo móvil, por favor, visite a la señora Olsen y les ayudará a configurar un dispositivo para que puedan escuchar la reunión en español. Les recordamos que les pedimos a todos los participantes que hablen despacio para que nuestros intérpretes puedan expresar sus comentarios eficazmente.
Thank you. We are transitioning the video cameras right now, so please be patient, but I will continue by saying this meeting tonight is being recorded and members of the public watching online or listening by phone can call 669-444-9171 using the meeting ID 898-5264-7245 #. There will be an opportunity for public comment for those participating in person. Each person will have 2 minutes to provide their comments. We invite each of you to introduce yourselves by name before presenting your comments. And we are setting up closed captioning at this time. There's also closed captioning on Zoom. Select the live transcript button on Zoom to enable this feature. So we do have the transcript up, but we need to just transition our video. There we go. Thank you, Chair Tokalahi.
Thank you. So our first order on our agenda is to approve the regular meeting from our last one, which is the minutes from our May 21st meetings. So at this time, I'm gonna invite committee members if you have any questions regarding that May 21st.
I just have two very minor corrections to suggest. One is just a typo that on page 1 under absent, where the roll call is, it should be alternate member Valdez voted in absent of Chair, Vice Chair Davidi's presence. And then the very last page in my report, when I mentioned that I had attended a function for the Jeanette Prandy Children's Center, I still can hear Jeanette saying there are 2 N's in Jeanette. So those are, and with those, I would just recommend those corrections. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from committee members? No, I see no. I'm going to invite public comments regarding the last minute. Any comments? No? I'm gonna close public comments. So I will need a motion and a second to approve a last minute.
I'm happy to move them as with the
With the
suggested
corrections.
corrections. Thank you.
Okay, any second?
Chair, I'll second.
Thank you. Lieutenant Abley, you mind?
Yes, I will call a vote. Member Alm,
Approve.
Member Alvarez,
Approved.
Member Kamina, Member Nguyen,
Approve.
Member Ruiz, Vice Chair DeViti. Approve. And Chair Tokolahi.
Approved. Thank you. Now it's open expressions for public comments on any matters that are not listed on the agenda for tonight. If any of the, yep, please come up.
Sorry. Hello, I'm Kevin Bruner. Hello, my name's Kevin Bruner. I'm a almost 30-year resident of San Rafael, and my family and I own our home on Clark Street, right across the street from Crystal Park. Our front door opens to the park, and I want to make some comments about the things that we see in the park. So every year, every summer, there's a lot of illegal activity in the park. There's a lot of open drug use. There's a lot of open drinking in the park. We see it every day, every weekend. We smell it in our home. We've called the police on many, many occasions. We've spoken, we've gotten advice to be like, don't confront people, just call every single occasion you have. Like the best thing you can do is call. We call and nothing happens. We get feedback that they don't see any illegal activity. They just see families playing in the park, and there are definitely families playing in the park sometimes. The park is not a community center. It's not an event center. It's a neighborhood park with children's playgrounds in it. My 7-year-old daughter plays there. Her friends play there. Most of the families in the community, and Crystal Park's nice because it's a very diverse community, but lots of children come down and play in the park. But there's a lot of drinking, particularly on the weekends in the spring. Like 2 Sundays ago on the 8th, there was a raging party in the park that was authorized. You know, somebody reserved space in the park. And when you reserve, you have to say there's no alcohol. We called the police. The police found people drinking. They made them pour out the alcohol. As soon as they left, I videotaped them on my phone from my porch. People walked up to their car, pulled out more beer, and started partying again. That Sunday night, I was going to the grocery and I couldn't get out of my driveway because somebody was double parked with their hazards on because they were helping their friend who was stumbling drunk, who could not stay on his feet, to try to get them into the car.
Thank you. I'm sorry, but I'll have to, sorry, I don't see the 2 minutes up. Is it?
For next meeting, we'll work on getting that a little bit
Okay.
bigger, but yeah, the 2 minutes is up.
On one occasion,
Sorry, I'm sorry. Like we'll just have to stick with the 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
has it been 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's my husband. I'm Katie Fleet, and I can just finish. I work with the Crystal Park Neighborhood Association, and I don't represent them making these comments. I speak for myself. On June 8th, my daughter asked my husband why there was a man pulling up his pants on the street. People urinate in the park on a regular basis. I don't know if it's because the bathrooms aren't open or people just like to urinate, but this is a playground where children play, and it's white children, it's Latino children, it's children of all different backgrounds, and no one is doing anything to make the playground safe. The last citation I personally heard of being issued by SRPD for blatantly illegal conduct that happens on a regular was last year in October. I mean, we have tons of pictures of people literally feet away from our Dragon play structure, like with, 6 bottles of empties and cases of beer, dudes smoking in front of the short school, like a public school. And I appreciate that marijuana has, a different legal status than it used to in California. But as far as I know, and I'm a lawyer, it is not legal to smoke marijuana in a public school, in a parking lot of a public school or in front of a public school. It is not legal to smoke marijuana in a park. It is not legal to smoke marijuana in your car. It is not legal to drive your car impaired by marijuana. So I just feel like we've been told by SRPD that we need to talk to the state legislature about the approach to marijuana. And the state legislature has made it clear you can't smoke in a school. You can't smoke in a park. And I don't understand why the SRPD is not enforcing that and not issuing citations and not making our playground safe for all of our people. And especially in this political environment, making a safe space for people of different racial and ethnic backgrounds to interact is critical. And I ask you to please do something.
Thank you. Any other comments? No, I see no. I'm going to close public comments. I think our next agenda is can any of the staff introduce our speaker or presenter for tonight?
Our presenter tonight is Sergeant Chris Duncan. He is currently the sergeant that oversees our investigations bureau, which oversees many crimes, violent crimes, persons crimes, property crimes, and including human trafficking. With that, I present Sergeant Chris Duncan.
All right, there we go. Can you all hear me all right? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm here to talk to all of you about one of the most challenging and devastating issues our society faces, and that's human trafficking. As a law enforcement officer, I feel that it's critical that we understand what human trafficking is, who it affects, and what we're doing about it here in San Rafael. Like Lieutenant Eberly said, my name is Chris Duncan. I'm currently the sergeant of investigations at the San Rafael Police Department, and I've been with the San Rafael Police Department for the last over 18 years. Within that time, I've worked as a detective specializing in issues related to criminal street gangs, narcotics, and human trafficking. So I have some experience working cases of human trafficking and understand the obstacles associated with saving victims and prosecuting traffickers. So before I get into everything, just a little disclaimer. This is a sensitive and devastating topic that can provoke some emotional responses. So I just want you to be aware of that. And I'm going to be using some terminology that is pulled directly from the human trafficking world, and I'll make sure that I define those as I go along for all of you. So human trafficking is a crime that involves compelling or coercing a person to provide services or to engage in commercial sex acts. The coercion can be subtle or overt, physical or psychological. It's crucial to understand that the exploitation of a minor is always human trafficking, no matter if there's any form of force, fraud, or coercion used. Human trafficking is essentially modern day slavery. Understanding the true extent of human trafficking is incredibly challenging for several reasons. First, trafficking typically happens through underground networks. So individuals, families, and businesses who enslave others often appear as legitimate. And second, people who experience trafficking are often among the most socially and economically vulnerable. Even if they have opportunities to report their situation, they often don't for fear of retaliation or fear of the justice system. The iceberg here depicted represents human trafficking as a whole. The tip of the iceberg represents the portion of human trafficking that law enforcement sees either through proactive activity or what's reported to us. It's only a small piece of the entire issue. The National Institute of Justice estimates that no more than 6% of all human trafficking is captured in police records. According to UNICEF study, human trafficking is the second most profitable illegal industry in the United States. While illegal narcotics can continually be created and are highly profitable, the products sold and then consumed, whereas human trafficking victims can be repeatedly used, making it such an incredibly lucrative and heinous crime. Who are the victims? There's no single profile of a trafficking victim. A victim of human trafficking can be anybody. Although there's no defining characteristic that all human trafficking victims share, traffickers around the world frequently prey on individuals who are vulnerable. Vulnerabilities such as poverty, limited English proficiency, or lack of immigration status, which are all amplified by a lack of a stable, safe housing and limited economic and educational opportunities. Trafficking victims are often deceived by false promises of love, a good job, or a stable life, and are lured or forced into situations where they're made to work under deplorable conditions with little or no pay, and can be found in a wide range of legal and illegal labor industries. Although there are different types of trafficking, I will be focusing specifically on sex trafficking, as those are the types of investigations we see and deal with here in the San Rafael Police Department. It's no longer the interest of law enforcement to arrest and book those victimized. Law enforcement's intention is to separate victims from traffickers, prosecute those traffickers, and provide and direct victims to services to move them in a more positive life path. So who are our sex traffickers? Just as there is no one type of victim, perpetrators of this crime also vary. People often incorrectly assume that most traffickers are male. However, females have been prosecuted federally as well as here within San Rafael. Within the sex trafficking trade, there are three main types of traffickers. These labels were created and used by those within the industry. You have the Romeo pimp, the gorilla pimp, and the CEO pimp. The Romeo pimp is a type of trafficker who lures the vulnerable, children, teens, and young adults into commercial sex by drawing them into a romantic relationship and then assuming control over them with that. The gorilla pimp is a trafficker who makes no promise of love or glamour. Their technique relies on brute force to put women on the street strictly to make money. Another technique among traffickers is a hybrid approach where a Romeo pimp lures a victim, and then during that time, once control is assumed, then they will transition to a gorilla pimp and assert some kind of physical abuse to maintain control at that point. And then lastly, the CEO pimp is a human trafficker who uses tactics such as coercion, fraud, and deception to recruit and control victims, but they're offering jobs that seem legitimate in legitimate looking businesses, or promising modeling contracts or acting roles. The modes of solicitation in sex trafficking occurs predominantly three ways: online, in the street, and within a business. On the internet, traffickers use escort personal ad websites to post advertisements. On the street, traffickers will have the victim walk the track or the blade. Those are two terms used within sex trafficking for an area known for human trafficking, where buyers will approach victims of human trafficking on foot or in a car to request services. And then third, within a business such as a massage parlor, where solicitation occurs behind closed doors. The male buyers are referred to as Johns, such as John Doe. Female buyers are often referred to as Jane. And another name that is used within human trafficking for a client is a trick. There are several factors officers can use to identify a potential victim of sex trafficking. And just please know that it's not just one of these factors that's a telling sign that someone is being sex trafficked. Officers, through surveillance or contacts with suspected victims, can use these factors to make a reasonable assessment that the individual in question is being trafficked. It could be seemingly walking without purpose or direction in an area known for human trafficking, avoiding eye contact with law enforcement and then becoming overly aggressive when contacted. Clothing very inappropriate for the time of day or year and weather. No form of ID or money, no shoes, being approached or approaching several men on the street. Unexplainable visible injuries and branding tattoos, such as a tattoo that names the pimp. I've seen tattoos that say property of, and then it names the pimp. Moving on to how officers can identify human traffickers in the field. Just like with the identification of potential victims, when identifying traffickers, it's several of these factors that assist in the determination. So a luxury or high value vehicle circling in an area known for human trafficking, picking up or dropping off someone who appears to be a victim based on location, time, clothing, victim's subsequent actions, essentially what I talked about in the slide previously. Possessing the victim's ID, clothing, shoes, multiple cell phones in their possession, and possessing a lot of cash. So I've talked about human trafficking in a broader sense. Now I'm going to move into the local context here in San Rafael. So why here? Human traffickers work a circuit on the West Coast or network of tracks all around the Bay Area, Southern California, and even larger cities outside of California, such as Las Vegas. Traffickers move within those different areas or tracks, and San Rafael has been specifically named by traffickers as a target-rich and profitable environment. Who's involved in this? So what we see in San Rafael, sex trafficking victims contacted by law enforcement at hotels and on the street are typically Black, brown, and white females. Sex and labor trafficking victims in massage parlors are typically Asian females. Sex traffickers contacted by police in San Rafael are typically Black men. There have been few instances where the trafficker was female, and very rarely are other types of labor crimes reported, so it's not really known to what extent labor trafficking occurs here in San Rafael. Where does this occur? Sex trafficking occurs in hotels within the city, also occurs on the street in San Rafael, generally in the Canal neighborhood. Often women victims walk the track to generate business and have a hotel room within walking distance where they can later meet the client. Both use online websites to advertise business as well. Human trafficking also occurs within massage businesses, and also brings along other crimes such as homicides, robberies, narcotics-related offenses, gun offenses, batteries, and carjackings. When does this happen? We believe human trafficking is occurring daily within the city. We just don't hear about it or always see it. During the spring and summer, that's when officers tend to see women, more women out on the street walking around in the Canal neighborhood who they believe to be human trafficking victims. So what are we doing about it here in San Rafael? The department's anti-trafficking efforts involve numerous components engaged in a full spectrum of activities. So investigations, services for victims, training, enforcement, and outreach initiatives to strengthen anti-trafficking partnerships. We have subject matter experts within the police department who put on training for officers that encompasses victimology, current law, human trafficking trends, resources available to victims, and how to go about conducting an investigation in the field. Officers are then better equipped to identify and proactively approach suspected human trafficking issues in the field via contacts, traffic stops, or while investigating a crime where human trafficking might be a component. There's education outreach such as for hotel ownership, so they can help employees identify human trafficking and then call the police. Collaboration with local and national organizations that support the effort in ending human trafficking and proactive operations. So talking about investigations and some prosecution difficulties, back in 2022, California passed Senate Bill 357, which essentially repealed Penal Code 653.22. So previously that law allowed for the arrest of individuals suspected in loitering for the intent of prostitution. The repeal was motivated by concerns about disproportionate enforcement against marginalized groups, including transgender women and communities of color. As a result of that bill and related reforms, law enforcement can no longer detain or arrest individuals for loitering under the repeal statute, which had previously been used by law enforcement to legally separate victims from traffickers and begin the process of support. Now traffickers can conduct their business out in the open with little police interference. Moving on to labor trafficking. Labor trafficking is a situation in which victims are forced to work against their will under threats of violence and other forms of punishment. Their freedom is restricted and a degree of ownership is exercised over them. This can manifest in various ways, such as domestic servitude, like nannies or maids, agricultural work, and factory work. Victims are often isolated where the employee controls access to food, transportation, and housing. Some red flags for law enforcement when it comes to identifying whether there's a labor trafficking issue. Unusual restrictions on work, including long and unusual hours, fearful of law enforcement, no form of identification, exhaustion, confusion, visible injuries, luggage in massage businesses, and inappropriate masseuse attire. These are organizations and agencies that ensure the safety and healing of abuse victims through accessible and comprehensive, coordinated, and culturally sensitive services. We work with the Community Violence Solutions a lot. They provide support services to child and adult victims of sexual assault and their families. Some other organizations offer victim advocacy, my apologies, temporary shelter, case management, and mental health assistance. In conclusion, human trafficking is very real and it occurs here within our city. The landscape of anti-trafficking enforcement in California has shifted significantly due to the repeal of the loitering statutes. However, law enforcement is continuously working to keep people and businesses safe and minimize crime occurring within the community. Although well-intended, since the passing of SB 357, law enforcement's ability to prevent sex trafficking activity on the streets and initiate human trafficking investigations has been hampered. The absence of officers' ability to detain and arrest for loitering encourages traffickers to work more openly out in the street. Now, law enforcement must rely on resource-intensive undercover operations to identify and assist victims of human trafficking and build provable cases against traffickers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Duncan.
One
oh,
moment, so we can toggle our interpreters.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. It's heavy. I know it's not a light issue. It's really heavy and it's affecting a lot of folks, whether we know them or we don't know them, work with them or not work with them. But it's important to acknowledge, and we want to thank you for the work that you guys are doing. I want to come back to the committee members for question, and I'm going to start to my left with Member Locks. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. My questions are there other parts of San Rafael besides the canal area where there's prostitution and or trafficking, sexual trafficking occurring? Or other parts of the county? Because I wasn't clear when you said the why here. Was that because there's money here? That's why here? And, why here was your slide. So those are my questions.
Yes, so to answer your first question, there are areas outside of the canal where human trafficking is occurring. And that is within hotels within the city where human traffickers and trafficking victims decide to reside for the evening while working. But typically it is in the canal where we see the trafficking victims out on the street walking. And then the second question, I can't say for sure exactly why here. I know the FBI has named it one of the areas within the Bay Area where human trafficking occurs. But there's the demand. So they're not going to come here if there's no demand, and there's a demand for their service here.
Ms. Lux.
I know, damn it. And do you know about the rest of the county? Do you have any comments about, you're speaking about San Rafael, but I'm wondering about, is there a larger issue within the county that you may or may not be aware of? That's,
I do have experience working operations where we work out of other hotels or within other hotels in other cities within the county where the same type of activity is occurring.
Thank you, Member Locks. We'll just continue, Darlene.
I am angry about that because I live on the street where they walk. It's hard for us to live there right now, especially because we have a teenagers and the ladies walk there. When my son go out, they don't respect to him. They offer the services and it's young boy. And we can walk out because men confuse us with these ladies. They don't respect to us. I think it's more people from out coming for services. And the night about 11, 12, we can sleep because they fighting with the people use drugs, with homeless, with customer, and it's impossible to sleep. I would like you to do something local for our community because it's embarrassing to have these issues. It's big issues. And I would like that finish. Thank you so much.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have tons of comments, but this is a time for questions, right? First of all, there's one of the new laws or most recent laws is requires posting of signs about trafficking and where to get help. And I understand there's some representatives here from the Marin Coalition. And I'm wondering if with the new law that requires nail salons and others, if there's going to be any effort to work on that posting. Or
I've actually done some research into that. I've found that other counties within the state, there have been community groups that have offered their assistance to law enforcement to help print and then disperse those notices. So if anybody wants to help out, that'd be great. Yeah.
The other thing with regard to the statistics, there's a whole set arena of grooming young people. And my understanding is that it doesn't matter if you're brown or black or white, that in a digital era, so many things happen with pictures of, getting young men and women asking to share pictures of their bodies, and then they get threatened after that. Can you talk on that? Are you familiar with that? If you could help, I would
Are
appreciate
you
it.
talking specifically about like sextortion?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, we've dealt with some cases similar to that here in San Rafael. Anything specific related to it that?
No, I think the issue for me is that it doesn't really matter what financial level you're at with all these new digital era implements, that it can really harm anyone.
Absolutely.
And the other question I have is about the grooming process, if you're familiar with that.
With the internet makes communication more easily accessible. And so with that, over time, you can have somebody who is speaking to a juvenile or a young person through the internet, claiming to be somebody that they may not be, and promising, things that they may never provide to that person, just to get that person to either meet with them or go with them somewhere. And then once that happens, who knows what can happen because of that. It's quite dangerous. And so what I suggest is parents be mindful of what their children are doing on the internet, because anybody can be on there as a predator targeting them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ask if they go into the stores.
I will.
I mean,
Vice Chair?
Sergeant Duncan, thank you for your presentation and your service. My first question is overall, the trend in rates statistically, are they trending upwards, downwards, flat? How are you seeing this issue?
From what I see, it's maintained, but it's more visible to law enforcement in the spring and summer months where the weather is warmer. That's when people are out on the street walking and are more visible to law enforcement. The majority of human trafficking happens behind closed doors. And then with that, unless we're constantly doing proactive operations, we have a hard time having an understanding of the magnitude of human trafficking that's occurring within the city, if that makes sense.
Got you. My other question is, these victims and traffickers, do they tend to commute from out of other cities, or these are people from Canal?
The majority of human trafficking victims and traffickers that we contact in the city come from outside of our city.
Do you feel comfortable sharing where they're coming from?
I've had
Is there a pattern?
I've had people from all over the Bay Area, LA, Las Vegas, all over, Sacramento.
Okay, sorry, I have a few more questions. This is a very important topic. You said there have been some laws that have changed and that have been counterproductive in prosecuting. What is your expectation from us? What can we do to help you to kind of move this forward? Because obviously this is a very important topic. I mean, when I drive home, my kids in the car, they ask me and they've noticed. I want to know what to answer them. Like, what can we do?
That's a very good question. I mean, what I first think of are resources, because a lot of these operations that are required now to proactively determine that human trafficking is occurring involves a lot of resources. I mean, I supervise a unit of 6 detectives, and each detective has their own job already. And to have them pull from their job and try and conduct an operation alone without outside resources is quite difficult. So my first thought is just resources.
I see. And then, sorry, I must ask some more. What's the most effective tool you've used to prevent this or to prosecute or?
The most effective tool, I think, is training our people about how to identify a trafficked victim out in the field, and then how to properly conduct an investigation. Because once these investigations go to court, it's really, really relying upon the officers, both the officers' investigation as well as the victim's cooperation.
Gotcha. And my final question, maybe more of a recommendation, but use of surveillance cameras can be a deterrence. I'm not sure if there's hotspots in the city where you're seeing them. I mean, they're by the motels. Is there a way if we can put surveillance cameras, put a sign, it's like, we're not stupid, we know you're here, maybe as a deterrence? Is that something,
I mean, it's possible, but the first thing I do when we have to deal with a major investigation is we go look for surveillance video, and there's already cameras all around the area, and that hasn't deterred any of the traffickers from coming down to our area.
thank you for answering my questions.
Can I jump in and add, Lieutenant Eberly will give me a nasty look because I'm not supposed to talk today. But, you know, one of the things you said was the conversation you had with your kids. And I think that's pretty powerful, right? And I think that, as Sergeant Duncan has shared, you know, knowing what your kids are involved in, having these conversations, I think is pretty powerful. And if, as you permeate our community as committee members that have been benefited by this presentation, I think it's an opportunity to host that conversation with other parents, friends that have kids. You know, having that conversation is pretty powerful, and unapologetically getting into their social media, I think is pretty powerful as well. You know, we all want to be, you know, we all want to get along with our kids and stuff. And sometimes it's easier to be buddy than it is to be a parent, but knowing what your kids are involved in, this is the doorway. I mean, in today's day and age, everybody has one of these, including our teenage kids. And that's the doorway or the gateway. And it's it's an opportunity to host a conversation with your kids and to know what they're up to and who they're talking with and who's trying to engage them. So I just wanted to offer that as a punctuation to a point that you made. Another comment that I was going to offer as it relates to tools that we have, you know, not only training, allied agency cooperation, things like that, but a participative community, you know, a community that is willing to reach out and say, this seems a little unusual. Hotel managers, restaurant managers, you know, the campaign of, I can't remember if it was 2018, 2019. In a previous life, we had a campaign where the district attorney, police department, and Chamber of Commerce really managed a campaign of, you know, posting in areas where there could be potential victims, you know, potential vulnerable victims, to have resources available. So, you know, if a hotel manager, if a restaurant manager, or if, you know, somebody in the community sees something that seems unusual, as outlined by the indicators that Sergeant Duncan mentioned, that's a real help to us as well. You know, as you've heard me say in other areas of our operations, we can't be everywhere all the time. So having a community that's willing to partner with us and share that is pretty powerful. So thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Duncan. That was an enlightening presentation. I appreciate it. I know we talked about trends, but can we actually talk about some hard numbers? What are the statistics in the last few years of interactions or arrests within San Rafael?
So I can't speak to the last few years, but so far in 2025, there have been 2 cases that we've had related to human trafficking. I don't know where they are in the criminal justice system currently, but so far 2.
Last year?
What was that?
Last year?
Last year, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. I really want to dive into that collaboration with hotel managers. How successful has that been? Are they participative? What can we do to help encourage better information being given and provided? I think they're probably the number one point people who would probably have the firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, we get phone calls from hotel owners when they suspect that there is human trafficking occurring within their hotel, because they also don't want that happening there because it affects their business. And so they'll let us know right away if something's going on so that we can come and intervene. I would say that it's been successful. And then with the notices, once those notices get posted, that will be additionally helpful as well, because then it allows more people to understand that if you see something, you should say something. There's phone numbers there. And if somebody's being trafficked in an area, there's a contact number for them to get some help.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I jump in real quick? The chief might look at me bad because I'm probably not to speak either, but I just want to emphasize on something that Sergeant Duncan said, that just because there's been 2 human trafficking cases in the last couple of years does not in any way mean that the human trafficking is not occurring in the canal. We heard from Member Ruiz that she sees people there every day. I want to emphasize that I've been around a lot of crimes and investigated a lot of crimes. Human trafficking is the most complex crime to investigate. One, because it's underreported, as Sergeant Duncan said, and one that is extremely time consuming. And that's not something that dissuades us from investigating it. It's just not out there and reported. So the way that we are able to find it, and I think it goes to another question, is the best tool. One of the best tools that we have is proactive operations, where we can get on and pose as a decoy and look for younger looking women. We can address the demand, and we can do surveillance on any of the traffickers that show up. The second point I wanted to bring up on your second question was about hotels and education. We do actually, and we have in the past, gone to certain hotels and provided education on what to look for, a class similar to what Sergeant Duncan has provided. And going back to the education, I think is the most important way that we can deter this. We have worked with San Rafael City Schools in helping formulate their curriculum that they now teach in the courses. I don't know if Ms. Alvarez has had that in her schooling, but I know it's taught in the middle schools and in the high schools on how to avoid sextortion, how to mind your manners, so to speak, on social media, and what you post on the internet, you can never get back. Thank you.
Noel?
My question is, beside the canal areas that we're talking about, the traffickers, is that any other areas in the Marin counties that you focus on the work to on the trafficker or prostitution?
Yeah, so as a San Rafael officer, I predominantly focus on what happens within our jurisdiction. However, I have been part of county operations where we've worked in other cities, other cities conducting human trafficking operations, such as Novato, Central Marin area. Yep.
Any more questions? Ms. Alvarez?
My question would be, when you receive these reports, I want to know what steps do you take? I want to know, how do you intervene? Like, what do you do? I mean, you talked a little bit about it with Member Alm, but you didn't really go into explaining what you guys do as SRPD.
Sure. And there's so many different ways we can get involved in a human trafficking investigation. So I'll just use an example of someone is within our city jurisdiction and they call us wanting help, and they're being trafficked and have a trafficker and they don't know what to do. So what they would do is we would have them come in to the police department if they feel comfortable doing so. We'd interview that victim and get all the details about what's been going on and who their trafficker is if they'd share that information. We'd provide them resources such as Community Violence Solutions, organization who helps victims of sexual assault. And then proceed from there. I mean, that's just a generalized and basic preliminary investigation right there, but they could go so many different ways at that point. Sometimes the victims want the help and then they start talking to the police and then they end up becoming fearful and then they stop talking to us and recant what they say. So there's a lot of different things can happen, but that's generally how it would go.
Thank you for your presentation. Something that I have heard around the area is that there are a lot of single men in Canal, and that's why human trafficking is so bad in that area. Do you think that is something that is true? Do you have any information about that, or is just like rumors?
I don't have any information on that, but that if you're hearing that very well could be the case.
I have a few questions, maybe 2, maybe 3. Can you elaborate more? You mentioned the underground networks. Can you elaborate on that?
Are you talking about just human trafficking in general, or just like communication amongst?
Or maybe both?
So
we just wanted to see like a picture, you know?
When I say the underground, I mean the moving of people and communication that falls under the radar of law enforcement.
Okay.
Chair
Is that-
Tokala here. Are you talking about the websites? Because there are a bunch of websites that are all over the place where there used to be a website called Backpage. It's the only website that I'm going to mention here tonight because it is no longer in service. They got taken down by the
Shut it
FBI probably 5 or plus years ago. But since then, there's been hundreds of other websites that spring up, and they're not run by people or organizations in America. So it's very hard for the government
To
or
censor.
law enforcement to crack down on them. So that would be considered what we would consider maybe the underground market.
Okay.
And just like other criminals try and do what they can to stay a step ahead of law enforcement. And just like that, traffickers are criminals. And so they're going to do what they can to stay under the radar of law enforcement. And so that's what I consider, the underground network.
Some of the other questions, I'm in the frustration boat with these folks. I have 2 girls. They're 10 and 13. I might raise my voice, so I apologize. Their grandmother lived in the canal, so we go and visit them most of the time. I've seen those tracks. I've seen these people. So sometimes I'll try and take the long way around, pick them up, and then take the long way back home. And sometimes it doesn't happen. I forgot. And we drive by and they start asking questions. Luckily at the school, they start talking about this, but they do ask questions. And sometimes I'm just blank, I don't know what to say. And I think I'm on the same boat with some of these. That gives me the idea of questions like, what do you guys think about, or have you thought about it, community policing in that area? I know there are groups. I know there's like 3 members in this committee. They're part of the Voices of the Canal. They're heavily involved in the canal. I trust those guys. I like the work that they do on the ground. Have you guys thought about something like that?
Yeah, I'll jump in and answer that. So we've actually we've been studying or considering an ambassador program in the neighborhood where, community leaders can kind of partner with us. We can have, create training opportunities for them, things to look for, but they know in their neighborhood what to look for, and they know in their neighborhood what to share with us. We do get a lot of complaints. We do get a lot of information from the community specifically on this activity, and we respond to it. Our patrol response, our investigations response to this activity is sometimes seen and it's sometimes not seen. As Sergeant Duncan has shared, some of the challenge in the legislation, some statutes that were decriminalized make it a little bit more difficult for, a police officer to intervene, even with the intention of resourcing a victim. But, they are responding to the complaints. And in some cases, the officer's presence really ruins their night. The couple of police officers parked across the street. Hey, how are you doing tonight? That kind of stuff is really annoying to people who are out there trying to, advance their, I won't say craft, but, to do their business. So, we have looked at formal ways to do that, and we continue to receive complaints and information from the community and respond to it a little more traditionally in the patrol role.
Thank you. At this time, I'm gonna open up to the public if there's any comment regarding the presentation.
Chair, if we can give me a moment to switch our interpreters before we open public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, we just give us a few seconds.
Take a bite.
Okay, we're gonna have 2 minutes break while we do that. We'll transitions. When we come back, we're gonna have public comments.
Cuando volvemos va a haber comentario público. Vamos a tomar un descanso de 2 minutos. Cuando volvamos va a haber comentario público.
Okay, I think we're gonna reconvene. If so we have one member still out. If you guys slowly come back, we're gonna continue on. It's okay. I think is out. They're good? Okay.
Do you,
Yes. Yes, we at this time, we're gonna continue on with public comments regarding the presentation. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I could barely keep myself in this seat because I'm so passionate about this topic. But thank you, San Rafael, for all that you do. I want to acknowledge that. My name is Marlene Capper, and our organization is Speak Safe, Save Adolescents from Exploitation. What we do, we have a team of over 40 high school and college students who are mentored, who work with me on this topic. We go into our schools. We've been into San Rafael schools, educating school staff, students, trying to get this information out to parents. We have parent groups. Parents need to be educated, and really our number one tool in preventing exploitation, human trafficking, is prevention education. Because what it is now in 2025 is very different than what it was in 2018, 2017, when I started in 2016. It looks very, very different. Social media, apps, gaming, that's really the recruitment platform. Relationships develop. Messaging, sextortion, AI-generated images, and then lately, the more of the chat bots, AI companions, becoming very sexualized and normalized. And so becoming educated but empowering, because we have tactics and we have tools. And so focusing what are those skills and setting parents and families up to succeed, because obviously more is being put on parents and families. And so we want to be able to support that education going forward, so that we are a place that parents can reach out to, understanding who are your resources when you have questions or issue, where is the support? But it really does all center around that. And yes, Backpage did close, and now we see it happening really more on the mainstream platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, OnlyFans. Oh my gosh, unreal. And, you know, even the terms we used to use, Gorilla Pimp or CEO, it really is the influencer right now. And how do you become an influencer? And many times youth are exploited in that process. But I realize I probably overused my time. So thank you. I just wanted to be able to let you know. And we are in your schools in San Rafael. So yes.
Thank you so much.
And who is the president of your board?
The very infamous Paula Camina.
Do we have any other comments?
Hi, my name is Jonathan Freeman, and received comments from me today on this presentation. And so my interest comes because I'm a hands-on body worker, and I work with the massage therapists who are legitimate here in town in order to keep them from being oppressed so much by the regulations that we're facing. That's the first thing. The second thing, I've talked about this with Scott for 10 years ago or so, and I've done a tremendous amount of research on this area. And I think that what you're saying here, there's a lot of information. It's very difficult to do what you guys are doing. So my hat, it stays on, but it's off to you guys. And the information that I presented and my response complements with an E. It complements. It's just as true that the iceberg applies to the sex work industry, which is very large. And I'm talking about the independents. I'm talking about the people who are not trafficked. I do want to emphasize that there was very little data presented, and I think that's what you need. I think there are probably 5 or 6 cases, probably 7 or 8 years ago. They moved very slowly, as he said. I urge that you hear from academia as I presented some of the my resources. I urge that you look for independent sex workers, and you can pay them, and they will come and talk to you about their work. You're never going to find clients. And in terms of the reason why there is a demand is because there are rich clients here who are willing to pay. And lastly, there's so much to say, but lastly, I have a lot of information, and I'm happy to share it with you all and to be able to help the efforts that you're in. And I would love to talk to you about it at some point. So,
Thank you.
and with that, thank you very much for listening. And it's a tough issue.
Thanks. Do I have any other public comments? I see none. I'm gonna close public comments. Do we have any comments online? No,
We don't have online comments. Sure, no, sorry.
no. Okay, we got it. Any of the staff have anything to say? Reactions? No?
I know Miss Capra, and her organization is great in helping the schools get the education that I mentioned earlier about just the prevention. The education will lead to prevention,
Yeah.
and I'm a firm believer in that. I want to echo my appreciation for all her work.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna come back to the committee for comments.
Just had a
You
question.
have questions?
Yeah, a
Okay.
question. So Lieutenant, is that an ongoing program, or is it seasonal, or is it, every 3 years? Because I am aware that there are some, let's say maybe more affluent parents want to shelter their children from hearing truth. So are we
Yeah.
really, are we really there, monthly or weekly or whatever it is?
I think what we can do, and I think it'll benefit for the entire committee, is attached to the minutes. We will, and Sergeant Duncan's presentation is we will put Ms. Capra's website on there. And if you would like to contact her offline, you can ask her all of those questions, and then the other resources that we use. And then I think even the curriculum might be online as well. If we find that the San Rafael City School uses, or the Prandy Center that has a really good video on it, we can publish that for all of you to see.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm gonna come back to the committee for comments. And I'm gonna start to my right.
Yeah, sorry, I'm really bad with names, but I think Sergeant Duncan mentioned, and also, you mentioned that it's like so difficult to make these cases, and Teresa sent us an article that says that 150 law enforcement agencies work together, and it's like, you will think that they call like 1,000 people, and it was like 74 individuals. So we can see that it's really difficult. Like, it's like really difficult for them to really get to the bottom of this. So thank you for what you're doing. It's really difficult, but I think that you are doing what is in your power to do. And yeah, for me, it was like, you will think there are a lot of people that were cut, but it was just 74 individuals. Yeah, thank you. That was my comment.
My comment, not for both staff and Captain Duncan. Oh,
You just got promoted. Congratulations.
so sorry. I would like to see more data. And like, I would like to know how SRPD is helping decrease human trafficking. That's it. And thank you for your presentation, Sergeant Duncan.
Well, I just had the same, like she just commented. We would like to have effective ways from the your investigation units to make improve for the canal area because that's very scary. That's the most scary areas in the Marin counties. So thank you for presentation.
I would like to echo Member Alvarez's. I'm data driven. I wish we had a little bit more to digest, and I do appreciate the member of public's comment on differentiating between sex work versus human trafficked persons. I do believe in a very sex positive life of my own and not wanting to stigmatize people who are doing sex work under their own free will. With that said, the whole issue of trafficked people is terrible. We need to address it in a holistic way because this is I'm afraid that the data is out there is not even tipping at the iceberg, and that was a really great visual of what that was, and thank you.
I want to thank Ms. Capra for what you shared. I think sometimes we have to intervene. Sometimes we're more effective preventing. Given our resources, given the dynamic of this issue, and given how the laws are set up, I think we can intervene. We can have sting operations. We can do so much, but it seems like the ROI is not there. You can't really convict these people. It's really takes a lot of resources. So I am really moved towards an effective way to prevent. This seems like a cycle that has a reward where, the sex worker making money, the traffickers. I'm glad to hear hotel operators are more involved, but I'm sure they're making money if these rooms are not sitting empty. So the best way to get rid of this is to prevent and to partner up with agencies, to partner up with people on the canal. I know we have the SAFE team. This is not really on the radar. I'm not trying to come up with more work, but maybe I am. It almost needs its own little unit. It almost needs like develop some kind of a safe team kind of a vibe where it's not policing, because I've been to these calls where 5150 police shows up versus the safe team shows up. The response is much different to safe teams. But I think in this scenario, you need somebody who can help these victims advocate for them and find them a transition way out. And so I think that's my recommendation would be to invest city dollar towards prevention.
Thank you so much again. I could probably go on this topic for about 3 hours, but in order to preserve time, I will just say a few things. I think I've said before that I don't believe there's any little girl who ever says, I want to grow up and I want my career to be a prostituted woman. In the years of my being involved in this field, from when I was a probation officer 100 years ago until now, most of the women and young boys and men who are involved in this have somehow been damaged. I don't want to generalize and say it's everybody, but many are in the situation where they're looking for someone to take care of them and to help. And then it becomes an issue of being attached to that person. So the one part that I would like to talk about, and not in disagreement with Member Alm, but I've attended sessions at the United Nations in New York, visiting and talking with sex workers. And every one of them, except for one woman, and there were many, who would talk about how they got into this. They were abused in some way, or they were pimped out and decided that they could just make as much money on their own since they felt useless now. And the woman who, there was another woman who said she had to get drunk every time she went out on the street, but she still wanted to make money. And the one that actually I think fit with what Mr. Alm says is this woman had a family. She was married. Her daughter was in medical school, and she left every morning to go out and to have her clients and came back, and that was how she paid for her daughter's education. And she did not seem traumatized at all. So I think it goes all the way across the board. my personal experiences with several young women who were attracted to when they were teenagers. And it was first, well, you come out with me, meet me at the mall, then let's go here and I'll buy you some new shoes. And, or I'm going to, now it's probably much more, I'm taking a picture of you and I'm going to threaten you. But it's just, and they just get in, and these young women have been taken from Southern California to Marin to Las Vegas and spent their life dealing with this until they got pregnant and had a child of their own. So I agree that it's a topic that will forever be here.
Takes them out of.
Well, they want to protect their baby. Anyway, I'm sure, and thank you, Ms. Capra, for sharing your thoughts. I know you could use a lot more than 2 minutes, but I appreciate it. So thank you for your work on this topic.
So
Thank you.
maybe next time you borrow here 2 minutes.
What?
Next time, your 2 minutes.
Member Ruiz?
Thank you so much, Mr. Duncan, and thank you so much, Ms. Capre. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you are working with the community. Thank you so much.
Member Locks? No? Okay. I know the question, the question is passed, but I do have one questions because I have to piggyback on the recommendations because I wanted to second these recommendations. Do you guys have a team allocated just for this?
Typically, the answer is no. Typically, our investigative team handles the investigative work of a incident like this. So if something were to come up on the street, identified by patrol, and if it's major enough that requires more resources, more time, more effort, and the victim is willing to cooperate with law enforcement, then my detective team would respond and assist in the investigation at that point. So yes, we do. We do have allocated resources to assist, but we don't have a dedicated team for human trafficking.
Would you recommend to have a team just for that?
I'd love 5 more officers, in our detective unit that's strictly dealing with human trafficking issues. I mean, that would be great. Yes.
I'm like Lieutenant Scott. I'm looking over at police chief. She's like,
Well, police chief wants more cops too. So, a dedicated, all of Sergeant Duncan, almost demoted you now. All of Sergeant Duncan's staff are cross-trained. So if there's a major incident of a certain criminal nature, everybody jumps in and everybody helps out. Each of his investigators also have a specialized function. So when we ramp up an investigation or an operation into human trafficking, all of Sergeant Duncan's staff participate in that. And in many cases, we would solicit assistance from investigators outside our organization because, crime knows no border, and our operations could go from this city to San Rafael to another city, and we're all kind of chipping in to help. Your question about dedicated resources for human trafficking only, that would be great, but we have a lot of needs and we continually prioritize those
Priority.
needs based on what's going on in the community.
okay, got it.
That's one.
It seems like we have a lot more questions. So I don't mind, I'm gonna continue with these questions if you guys don't mind. Okay.
Well, the only thing that I wanted to comment on is that we actually have the co-chair of the Marin County Coalition to End Human Trafficking here. And the coalition has been in existence for, thank you, since 2014. And they have a group that's law enforcement. And so I know that investigators throughout the county do get together either quarterly or and share information. And so, and I know a lot of you went to the movie that they put on with Dominican College last year. So I just wondered, there are some community efforts, and now I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, one more question. Chief, back to you, if I may ask you. Has there been collaborations with other PDs, what they're using, what's effective? Has there been anything done along those lines?
Yeah, big and little. I mean, the training that I go to, this is an area of discussion in terms of successful operations. We talk about it more locally at the county chiefs level. We, as I said, routinely support our allied agencies as they support us when we have these types of operations. So, in terms of like strategy, I won't talk a lot about, some of the stuff that works really, really well because we don't want to tip our hand on some of that. But, we do continue to try to be innovative. We do try to be where we need to be and meet people where they are, both victims as well as perpetrators. So there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of discussion on this among chief executives.
One last one. Let's say we wanted to have a team allocated just for human trafficking. Would you guys tap into organizations outside of the police force?
Yeah, absolutely. We would continue to partner with nonprofits and service organizations in the city and in the region. And as we do, we would continue to partner with them both for resources and for resourcing victims, as well as resources for our investigators or officers that come across victims.
Thank you. Okay, one last one, Member Locks.
This is a comment. It sounds like the chair was working towards it, that I would like to suggest that a voting member of this committee put forth a motion to make a recommendation to the city council for the purposes of increasing their budget for the number of investigative officers that they need with a specialty in trafficking activities. So however a member would like to make that motion, that is something that we have power to suggest in our annual report coming up, that this is where we want some funding to go.
I see vice chairs on it.
I just wanted to second that motion.
She can't.
Oh,
make
she
the
can't.
motion.
Okay, I will,
One of the voting members will have to motion that.
I make a motion towards increasing funding to prevent sex trafficking. Is that the proper way of phrasing it?
Sorry, what was it?
We are within a Brown
They're
Act.
just making recommendations. So it's an
Yeah.
advisory board and they make recommendations, but
Yeah.
we have to focus.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
wording.
that was the motion,
Got it.
and
So we just need a second. Okay, we have a motion and second.
I will call the roll on the motion on the table. Member Alm,
I vote aye.
Member Alvarez,
Aye.
Member Kamina, Member Nguyen,
Aye.
Member Ruiz,
Aye.
Vice Chair DeViti, Chair Tokalahi.
Aye,
That motion carries.
thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on with committee reports and staff reports.
I just wanted to remind the committee, next month, there is no regularly scheduled meeting. So our next meeting will be in August, so enjoy your summer break. Additionally, one of the comments was made, so as a reminder in your agenda packet materials, all of the organizations that were listed on the slide from Sergeant Duncan are hyperlinked to those agencies. So that information is readily available.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start from my left, just committee members report. Anybody?
Oh, I can go.
Yeah.
More of a recognition. Someone in the audience got mentioned. I just want to recognize Cecilia Zamoro, my teacher in the Leadership Institute class. I know she's quiet, but she's always very verbal. Thank you for your fearless leadership in the community. I just couldn't let you not get recognized before leaving. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Locks?
Yeah. I
Sorry,
guess
Member
that's-
Locks.
okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to say that, well, you folks know I'm involved in a lot of things, but as far as, our homeless issues, I am a member on the County Community Land Trust initiative that came out of the racial equity plan. And we have started our meetings going forward with the San Francisco Community Land Trust is the agency which is going to carry forward with how the county is actually going to secure land and so forth. So we're at the point right now, our meetings are just beginning with, starting to do checking on the, doing research to see what needs to be the next steps going forward. So I wanted to share that. And then lastly, because yes, we all need to be politically aware. On the 31st of May, I was a speaker for Medicare for All at the rally that was at the Embarcadero in San Francisco, where I did educate the attendees, which is about, there was a little more than 100 folks, on how to contact the legislators' DC switchboard. And I want to say here, 202-224-3131. Call them and tell them what it is we want done. Thank you.
Member Ruiz, do I have?
I attended the festival for vegetable and fruit in the clinics on June 7th with Boy Scouts. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Al? I'm sorry.
I see Cecilia, Cecilia's not here, but I was going to say for my comments to say thank you to her for coming. She is the co-chair of the coalition that I mentioned before, and I thank Ms. Capper for being here. I'm so proud to be involved with her and president of the board. She does incredible work and educates teachers as well as students and law enforcement and probation, but that's for that. And so my first comment is congratulations to our chair who graduated from something. Congratulations to you. Yeah. Yeah. So it was nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And today I went to a retirement celebration and I saw Lieutenant Emberly there for Kate Kane, who has been the deputy director of Center for Domestic Peace, the domestic violence program. Incredible woman. And she's been involved in Marin, I think, for almost 30 years. And to see the relationship between her and the police that were there honoring her is so different than the world when we started. So I honor her. She's made a great contribution to our community. And then I don't know if anybody's seen from
I
the
saw that.
IJ on Sunday, did this wonderful senior living section, and I'm very proud. Or, I mean, I didn't have anything to do with it, but Jeff Ida, who is a chief deputy in the DA's office, did a wonderful article on senior scams. And so I recommend that for people. And then I have an apology to make. I have a broken foot and it happened just before our last meeting. So I failed to comment on National Law Enforcement Officers Week last time we had our meeting. May 15th was that day to celebrate those who've given their lives and those who serve us. And so I would like to belatedly say, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Member Al?
Thank you. Only one thing to report out. Traffic safety is something of a near and dear issue for me. And I work in Corte Madera. And on a daily basis, I take a lunchtime walk along the bike path behind Redwood High. And the e-bike issue is rampant there. Recently I took a meeting with a council member and a trauma surgeon to talk about how we could better legislate within cities. And I'll keep talking about it as much as I can.
Thank
I
you.
probably don't need to respond, but I feel like I should. The council will be considering an e-bike ordinance in the coming month or month and a half or so. I'm not sure. I don't remember the date, but that will be forthcoming.
Does this relate to what happened at the mall or nah?
No, totally
Okay.
unrelated.
Totally unrelated. But, yeah.
I don't have any report.
Okay, thank you. Alvarez, no? Okay. I have two things. The first one is Juneteenth, tomorrow. Please enjoy. I think most work is closed. I don't know. I think the local BD, thank you for keep working. Yeah. We also have some members here. It's their birthday tomorrow. Congratulations. The last one, I'm pleased to share that based on a recommendations from a member of this committee, a work group has been formed to focus on the REPA related recommendations presented by the PAC at our last meeting, the May 21st. So this group will be responsible for gathering additional information, conducting research, and reviewing best practices to help guide thoughtful and informed discussions regarding the issues. They will provide updates on their progress to the full committee over the coming months. The work group anticipates holding its initial meeting by around the end of this month, late July. What is that, June? No, next month. Sorry. Late July, next month. So appointed to this work group, 3 people, just because we don't want to go over 3 because of the Brown Act. So Member Kamena, the vice chair, and myself as the chair. So the 3 of us will be in this work group. We are grateful to these members for their willingness to dedicate their time and expertise to this important effort. Their work will play a key role in advancing meaningful dialogue and progress on this topic. So thank you everyone for your continued commitment to equity, transparency, and accountability in our committee. And with that.
No, I have a question.
Okay, Member Locks?
So this is an ad hoc committee, so you folks can meet actually next month if you choose to. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not an ad hoc committee.
It's-
It's a working group.
Working group.
It's different.
Yeah, if you'd like, yeah, I know we're at the end of the meeting. We can schedule a time maybe next year to go over the ins and outs of ad hoc and committee meetings. I know that the city attorney is working on training. Once that becomes available, we'll pass it along the PAC, but it is different, and this is a working group.
Yeah.
That doesn't, are you saying there cannot be ad hoc committees? That's not what you're saying.
That's kind of what I'm saying from the city attorney's perspective, is because of she's researching it, and we'll get back to you with finality.
Okay, thank you. And this meeting is adjourned at 7:34. Thank you.
Yes, we are keeping.